Hello and welcome to the Nostalgia Dirt series. These two men have given me the honor of sitting down and spend a little time and talking to me here about nostalgia racing, and I really don't get no more nostalgia than this. These gentlemen here probably forgot more about coupes and flatheads and stuff like that than I'll ever know. So I'm very honored today to have Marty Pringle and Monty Pringle, and we're in Pringleville today, Otho, Iowa, in the beautiful shop here, and maybe we'll be able to take some pictures and put that up on our Facebook page so you guys can see this beautiful place. But just want to thank you guys for sitting down with me and talking to me. And Marty, I came up here a while back and you were talking about you and Monty and the coupes and stuff, and when you guys used to play in them. And can you guys reminisce and talk a little bit about that?
I learned to drive in a 34 Ford.
You learned to drive in a 34
down
Ford?
the alley at Webster City, Iowa.
Is that right?
My dad taught me to drive that. It's the first car I ever learned to drive in.
That's cool.
An old stock car.
What about you?
Same deal. Our dad raced for. We've been around since we were born, so.
Yeah.
So the coupes got a special place to us, but.
You know, the coupes are kind of getting to be a lost art, Marty. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you feel about that and what we can do to keep this stuff going?
There's still a few around. It just when I was promoting the vintage races at Webster City there for several years, the nostalgic real, skinny tire, the real deal went away.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't no place for them. Everybody wanted to win, I guess, but so I kind of got out of it at that time, but still built them.
I think the biggest thing with the coupes is that era's gone. You know, then the next era stepped in, and they're not familiar with the coupes at all.
Right.
And it's...
Well, even for me, I know it sounds kind of funny, but you've got a Dixon car in your collection. It's the Malibu. About what year is that? The Dixon car you got? Is that in the 80s?
Yeah.
Early 80s Malibu. And so those are getting hard to find. So I kind of know what you mean about stuff going away, because I went through the 80s Malibus, and before that it was the 73 Chevelles. Everybody had those. And so I in my generation, I kind of know what you guys mean about the coupe stuff.
We've probably restored 40 cars.
Probably more than that.
The coupes are kind of our deal, but...
Because we did it for people that still have them.
And we both raced for years. And it's
First stock car that we had as brothers was a car from Fever Heat, the movie from Fever Heat.
Sure.
And what was I, 16 or something? And we had our dad sign that paper from school, we told him. He just did it, and I raced it at Dayton, Iowa. And
You guys deceived old Dad? I
Yeah.
can't believe that.
I thought I was going
How many times did that happen?
little as that track
they
is.
only let us race once.
Yeah,
So,
Back then, you had to be a certain age or insurance, Now, God, they're 10 years old racing.
they're a little more lenient nowadays. Yeah.
with their parents, but
So-
little as that track is, they were lapping me, and I thought I was going 100 mile an hour. How can I lose? I didn't know what I was doing.
So when did you start racing, Marty?
Oh, I figure eighted for... My first figure eight race was 50 years ago.
Is that right? Yeah.
And I figure eighted for years and years and years. Because I was driving trucks, so I didn't have time for a race car.
Right.
Geez, I don't know how many features I won figure eights.
And did you guys kind of work together on racing and stuff?
Yeah,
But back then, there's 125 figure eight cars. You go home with $1,000.
Right.
And I was track champion in Rockville City 14 times.
Is that right?
So it
when I
was.
first started racing, they had B features, and you don't even see that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you guys race against each other ever?
Nope.
No,
You
we
didn't?
No.
Well, we might have to get a grudge race together here for too
In
long.
a coupe we did one time with our dad.
Is that right?
Just beat him and our dad. It was
Oh,
three
wow.
coupes.
You know what happened? He beat us both.
Yeah.
Your dad beat you
He
both,
told
huh?
Marty, when we get to coming to the checkered flag, let's go on each side of him and pass in a row.
Right.
We couldn't catch him.
Dad didn't know what the game was,
No,
huh?
he didn't.
Dads have a way of doing that. Yeah.
And that's my last race car there.
The yellow one?
Yeah.
What did you guys like to do more? Did you like to race them, or did you guys like to restore them? I know you guys have restored.
Yeah. When we started gathering up coops, nobody even cared about them, remember?
Yeah.
They didn't.
Right.
We want that for.
Right.
You know, we do.
So there's some unique things about the coupes and the race cars. I noticed when I was in the shop when you guys were showing me the race cars. Tell the guys about how they hold the doors shut and stuff.
With a belt sometimes.
A leather belt.
A belt. Yeah.
All they had was one lap belt.
Yeah.
Them guys were crazy, man.
I remember we got a wire welder for the first time, and I'd weld up some stuff on it, and it looked too pretty, so I'd take my old stick welder to make it look real crummy, lay a bolt in there.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, good old days.
it's too pretty for a coupe.
So what's your most favorite car to restore then? I know you're a Ford man. I hear that a lot. Are you a Ford man too,
Probably
Monty?
34 Fords.
34
yeah.
Fords? Yeah.
That's what our dad had, a lot of them.
And don't you guys still have one of your dad's cars? Didn't you
Yeah.
find your
Yeah.
dad's car? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well,
What's 34 Ford? It's
yeah,
just right there on that poster.
yeah. The one I'm talking about driving.
Right.
Shamrock tap, and the pastor said, well, sat right on the fence, right against the sidewalk where they entered the church. He said, well, can you move that?
Oh,
We have to look at it every time we come to church on Sunday morning. So he put it in the garage.
sure. How did you guys ever come about finding that? I mean, or did your dad just keep it, never got rid of it?
No, I don't remember where we found that. Britt, was it?
I
Maybe?
think it was Britt.
Like me, you guys got the bug from your dad for racing, and I suppose seeing the pictures and I suppose that was a lot of race talk in your family. There was with us with the Siemens and
Our mother took us to races all the time and growing up.
So you guys pretty much from around these parts then, the Otho, Iowa, and Fort Dodge,
Born in
and
Webster City, I was, and
sure.
so was you.
Yeah.
The racetrack, our grandma lived right on top of the hill, right where you enter the track. And I remember Sunday mornings, we would go down over the hill and they'd leave them in the pits because they just towed them.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd find a few we could get fired up, and we were too little, and one of us would push them pedals and the other was trying to steer it. And then they started taking the batteries out of them or letting the air out of the tires, so we'd leave them alone.
What do you want people to know from the nostalgia scene? What is the most important thing you want to leave with people? What do you want them to know?
Originality. Real. You don't need big tires. You don't need V8s. You don't need quick changes, coil-over shocks. They didn't have none of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Purist stuff. Yeah. So, how about you?
That's a tough question.
Well, I mean,
I meant it that way. I meant it to be tough.
There's a place for them cars.
Yeah.
When I was promoter at Webster City for the vintage, I made a class for them. If you want to run it, okay. But they had a 6-cylinder. They wanted to run with the older stock ones. I said, no. If the suspensions you got under that car, you're going to run with them. And they'd get mad at me.
Right.
There's a place
I guess
for
my
them.
biggest thing is the kids racing nowadays, they don't care about the history.
Yeah, right.
And you know, if it wasn't for them old guys, we wouldn't be where we're at today. you know?
Right.
And it seems like you got to get a certain age before you respect,
Yeah.
you know, how it all come about. But
No, they don't care at all.
And I'm at that age too. You know, I bought some of your cars that you were saving to restore, and I don't know if you know this, but I had a bunch of youngsters on a tree crew come and take down a tree for me, and I had the shop doors open, and I had the I think it's a 55 center steer and the 56 Chevy, and they came in and they're like, well, what's that chain on the steering wheel for? What's that all about? And how come they're in the center there? And you know, the homemade Panhard bar on one of the cars and the 3/4 ton trucker and these guys were they were young. Makes me dated, but they were youngsters, you know, and they were just, their eyes were big and their mouths were open. They were asking questions, and you guys know, but I said, well, they didn't have race shops that you went to buy a quick steer box, or you didn't have aero racing wheels. You made your own, you know. My dad told me stories about stealing my grandpa's hay rack wheels and cutting the centers out
because of the width.
Yeah, and stealing his implement tires.
Yeah, they used implement tires.
Yep,
right front.
and that's what they did. So
biggest problem to me today, Mark, is technology has killed the racing.
Yeah.
It ain't the same. It's
You
just
know,
like buying a model car.
Everything we did, we built our own. We built in our own shop, which you had a lot more pride when you won.
Right.
Now they just go buy it. They buy their knowledge, and
Yeah.
Most of them are turnkey anymore when they buy it.
Right.
so I don't know. It's changed so much that
And-
unbelievable.
And you know, I found myself too, when I started the North Iowa Vintage Racing Club about 15 years ago, and we've been racing, and you guys will probably say yes on this, but we kind of got away from them. We kind of classed out vintage racing, and a good man named Skip Pollock from Minnesota.
Yep.
I was talking to him, and he first question, kind of a harsh conversation at first, but he said, "What's vintage racing to you?" And I said, "Well, what we do is we take these 80 Malibus and we put 55 Chevy bodies on them." And he goes, "That ain't racing. That ain't nostalgia. That's an old body on a new car." And so I had him mentor me and explain to me, kind of like you guys do, you know.
I said it too, but I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Well, that's how you keep history going, is educate. I get to call myself a youngster. Educate younger generation like me. That's how you keep this stuff going. But so the Nostalgia Dirt Series, we actually started what we call a stock class this year, and it's geared towards those cars like I bought from you.
Yep.
To get them put back on the track,
Yep.
or even coupes. We've got some 1920s non-caged wire-wheeled sprint cars that are going to come run with us.
They're cool.
And those gentlemen said they don't have anywhere to run those cars anymore.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
And so that's what we're passionate about, is putting Christ first in our life. We're passionate about living in this country and just honoring my veterans and stuff. And also, when I say you guys are my heroes, I mean it from the bottom of my heart, because of all your wisdom and all the stuff that you did. And I mean, even spending time with me talking about, you know, what you think is important, because that's very right. That's what we at Nostalgia Dirt Series, and I'm sure you guys are too, just looking at the shop, is keeping the history alive and that kind of stuff.
I have to tell you one story about my dad I remember.
Yes.
The Pennzoil used to come in a steel can.
Yeah.
He would put that oil can underneath the left front, heat the axle till it come down and hit the top of the oil pan.
Right.
And they called it clearing wedge.
Oh, really?
That's how they put a wedge in the car.
Right.
But you had to go to the top of that oil can. That was it.
That was it. That was a perfect ride height,
But
then, right?
it put wedge in the car.
Yeah. None of those weight jack things.
No.
I've seen guys used to heat the right front straight axle and bend it in. They didn't realize it's solid. The wheel's not going to come out and stand up like today's race car. It didn't do you any good at all.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
you went from this width of a tire on the ground to this much after you did that.
Yeah.
We got Speedport magazine, 1951. My dad's on the front page in a big wreck in Fort Dodge.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't even born then. But
Right.
But that's pretty neat, you know, to find something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, I was going through pictures, and my dad had bought I don't remember what year it is, a Chevrolet from Skip Rose out of 47 Chevy out of Mason City, Iowa. And my grandpa and my uncle, my dad bought that car from Skip. And the number at the time was famous. It was Star 4. It was a black star with 4 in the middle. Ted Zeman had ran that on his midget, and the number had history. And so my family was really excited, my dad says, about they bought this car. I was going through some old photographs, and here's my dad when he was probably 16, my grandpa, and I didn't hardly even recognize him, and my uncle. And it was the first night at Mason City that they raced that car. And I didn't even know that a photo existed, but I just know how I felt when I unearthed
That photo.
something I didn't even know. You know, it's like, here's my dad. He looks like he's, like I'd never seen him, you know. And they got it had the two carburetors on it, had a straight 6, you know.
Yeah.
And they're they put the thing in the can of oil and dump it in there. No screw top stuff.
Years ago, before Ted died, probably a year or so before he died, he came to my house and he looked at some of this stuff and photos, because I want to do one. I mean, he never did.
Sure,
I think his health failed, but he wanted one too.
Sure.
He said, I want to do this.
Well, my son got into racing because Ted mentored him. Ted was in the nursing home. And Brandon, you know, he knew Dad loved racing and Grandpa loved racing. And Ted Zeman's name was always in our house because he was always kicking my family's butt on the racetrack. So Ted Zeman was a topic in the Holt house all the time, you know. And so Brandon started visiting him in the nursing home and going through old photographs and stuff. And Brandon just fell in love with Ted, and they just spent hours and hours in the nursing home reminiscing about the wins and that kind of stuff.
He did a lot of that, didn't he?
Yes. So the Zeman family, the Pringle family, and the Andersons, you know, you talk about Willie Kraft, right? Don't you have some of his cars?
Yeah, it's up at the Algona Museum.
At the Algona Museum, yeah. And there's just so many stories that I'm excited for the Nationals coming up. We're doing a tribute to you.
Yeah.
So we're going to embarrass you in front of a whole grandstands full of people.
He's got the original car from the movie Grease Lightning.
At the museum at the Cassuth County Speedway in Algona.
It's the actual car they did the filming with.
Yep. So I highly recommend you go visit the museum in Algona at the Cassuth County Speedway. They have the Ag and Performance Museum that has a lot of stuff, a lot of history in there. So I just want to thank you guys for reminiscing and sharing your knowledge. when I say you guys are my heroes, I really mean it. Just the history and the life you have led with racing, and racing
I
is.
think you're the only one I've ever heard it from.
Well, you're going to hear it a lot more when people see these interviews and stuff, because I know you guys are loved by many, you know. Well, thank you so much. Thank you
I'm
so
more
much.
fun to talk to when I ain't being recorded.
We'll have to sneak the camera sometime to get you guys reminiscing. Definitely. All right. Well, this has been the Nostalgia Dirt series, interviewing Monty and Marty Pringle. And again, if you like what we're doing, please spread the word about our Facebook page, and please hit the subscribe button, tell a friend. And our goal is to keep racing history alive and promote racing history. So this is Mark Holt from Otho, Iowa, in the Pringle Mansion, saying thank you very much for tuning in and watching.